Welcome to Building Birmingham Together, a show about Birmingham's business leaders' successes, failures, and lessons learned to encourage you to remember that dreaming is free, but the hustle is sold separately. I'm your host, Kim Lee, founder and CEO of Forge. Building Birmingham Together is brought to you today by Forge. Forge is Birmingham's first professional co-working space located in the heart of downtown Birmingham at the Pizitz building. With private offices, open workspace, as well as meeting and event space, Forge is the place where small business owners, entrepreneurs, and remote workers come together, meet new people, and get work done. If you would like to find out more about Forge, you can visit our website, workatforge.com, and schedule a tour directly on the website. Today, I have Jessica Moody with me on Building Birmingham Together. Jessica is the Director of Programs at Create Birmingham. She has worked in the nonprofit sector for 10 years, joining Create as Communications Specialist in 2011. After serving as Customer Service Manager for the Greater Birmingham Humane Society, she now oversees the services Create offers in support of the city's creative industries, including Costarters, Film Birmingham, Birmingham 365, SpaceFinder, and office hours. She serves as a valuable resource to visiting filmmakers and incoming productions, and plays as a critical role in mentoring local small businesses and entrepreneurs. In addition to weekly meetings with Costarters participants, she consults with graduates regularly to help them set actionable tasks and achieve goals and take full advantage of the spectrum of Costarter graduate support services. She also represented the commercial creative sector as a member of the City of Birmingham Small Business Council, an advisory group to the Department of Innovation and Economic Opportunity. Jessica, after saying all of that, I already felt like I don't know how you do everything that you do, but now I really don't know how you do everything you do.
I myself don't know how I do everything. What I do think is interesting is in the midst of this pandemic, I realized that the 9-to-5 job is kind of dead. And I think that it was weird to try to keep cramming yourself into 9-to-5. And so I now like pick my kid up at 3:00 and then I come back and then I work after she goes to bed. And so I still do a lot, but I think like understanding your own internal rhythms is really helpful. But
yeah,
so people have to stop trying to work 9-to-5, especially like small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yep. And parents and everybody looks different, and figuring out that right rhythm is what helps, but it doesn't matter. You still do so much, and you know what? You do it all. So it seems so great. I'm sure you feel chaotic.
I am really glad
you do
that is job. Well, thank you. I'm really glad that is the impression that I give people.
Oh yeah. So I think later on, I'm going to talk about how we first met. But before we get into all of that, I'd love for you just to tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your background, and what led you to Create. And then we're going to talk about what Create is.
Yeah, so I am married. My husband's name is Josh. And I have a 6-year-old girl named Delta. And if it tells you anything about us, we came up with her name because Josh was teaching himself physics on Khan Academy, and Delta means the rate of change. And we were a family of 2 moving to a family of 3, and the symbol is a triangle, and all that is the nerdiest name. But I think that tells you a good bit about me. I love a spreadsheet. I like math and science, and I like helping people reach their dreams. I started working for Create Birmingham in 2011 when we were the Cultural Alliance, and I came there from the customer service manager at the Humane Society. My role shifted pretty quickly when we became a staff of 2, and it was our president and CEO, Buddy Palmer, and me. And so everything that he did not do, I did. And we grew our programming pretty quickly. We grew our organization pretty quickly. And in the midst of launching into this large like cultural impact study, we really shifted our role as an organization into serving not just the nonprofit sector as we had as the Cultural Alliance, but really serving the commercial sector as well, and really everybody who fits within what we call the 6 creative realms. And so we love watching the creative economy grow, and we are happy to be a part of that. And I'm happy to be a part of that as well.
So tell us a little bit. First, I will go back and say Delta is so cute and she
Oh,
fits
thank
her
you.
name. Yes, it is just the
She
perfect
is
little
a
name.
mess.
She is a change agent.
She is. She is a rate of change.
That's right. I love it. I love it. But why don't you tell us just a little bit more about what Create is and what you do? And for the main part of this interview, we are going to focus on the Co-Starters program. I know that's just a small part of what you do. Hopefully we can get the new CEO, Megan, in to talk about more holistically about Create, but just give us a brief picture of the different aspects with Create that y'all impact in Birmingham.
We are a nonprofit economic development agency, and that's a fancy way of saying that our job or our hope is growing the creative economy. So we are focused on job creation, small business development, helping artists, entrepreneurs, makers, creatives make money doing what they love, which is why the film industry is also pretty important, right? We want to make sure that local crew are hired. And so we are advocates for filming in Birmingham. And then we are small business development or small business support services for artists and makers, creatives, nonprofits, entrepreneurs, all those folks, right? So the biggest way that we do that is through kind of we're shifting the name, right? Because it used to just not shifting the name, but we used to just do co-starters, and now we have so much that falls underneath that. The support services after you go through co-starters, and then this kind of pre-stuff before you go through it. So it's really all encompassing, like I like to call it conduit, but it's that like conduit support, right? I think of our organization as kind of, if you envision like a subway map, there are lots of different lines that you can hop on, and there are some programs that can support you depending on what kind of creative realm you're in, right? And lots of others, some of them overlap, some of them don't overlap, but if you kind of go on a subway map, you can go forward and backwards wherever you need to go, hop off when you need to, get back on. But our goal is really supporting you, helping you grow, helping you make money, doing what you love.
Right. So, okay, tell us a little bit, a big part of that, a big stop on that map is the Co-Starters program, which it's not for everybody. I don't know how it can't be for everybody, but it is a great program. So tell us a little bit about, and I'd love for you to share the story about the shift from the Cultural Alliance and then how Co-Starters got on your radar, and then what that Co-Starters program is.
Yeah, so we launched into this huge impact study, creative industries impact study in 2012. And we spent about a year researching creative industries. So what we wanted to know is how many jobs was it creating within Jefferson County, and what the household revenue impact was. What we discovered was and these numbers are now like 10 years old. So in 2011, 2012, the numbers, it was creating about 23,000 jobs and accounting for about $500 million in household earnings, which is about 5% of Jefferson County's revenue. Those numbers are old, and it is probably much higher than that now. This was before the craft brewer scene, I mean, before so many breweries, before so many downtown restaurants, before downtown Birmingham really saw a flip. And so those numbers are huge now, right? So in that like creative industries impact study, we now have 32 recommended actions for how to grow the creative economy. Some of the things that came out of that were reestablishing a film office. Some things had to do with access to food, like food deserts, like that kind of stuff, education. But one of the things was the small business education for artists and makers. And so Bruce Lanier, who owns Make Birmingham, was on our steering committee, and he came in one day and said, you guys gotta, like, we have a call, we're gonna talk to these people in Chattanooga. There's a program in Chattanooga and we should be running it here. So in 2014, we launched our very first cohort in September 2014 of amazing people: Kristen Farmer Hall with The Essential, Lillis Taylor with Viv and Tucker, Bruce Lanier was in that cohort. So we had a ton of people go through that very first cohort in September of 2014. And then in October of 2014, we changed our name from the Cultural Alliance to Create Birmingham. And what happened, Birmingham is very good at doing a study and then it just sits on a shelf. And we didn't want that to happen. And so when we were discussing what happens to this report, who takes it on, whose job is it now to take these 32 recommended actions and move forward on them, we decided maybe we're situated to do this, right? So if we continue with Costarters, it puts us in this for-profit sector, and we still can continue our relationship with our nonprofit friends. So we really shifted our mission and shifted our name, and Create Birmingham was born. So there it is. And now we're launching into our like 29th cohort, I think.
Oh my word. It's crazy.
Yeah. We now have like 300 graduates. It's insane.
So tell us what the program Costarters does.
Yeah. So the core program is an 11-week curriculum. We meet once a week for 3 hours. It is like small business boot camp. So you have a binder, which I could pull out, but I won't. And every week you focus on a different aspect of the business model canvas. So thinking through, who is your customer? Who do you actually serve? What is the solution that you're providing? What's the real benefit that solves the actual problem that your customer has? And we really think through some like big ethereal things, right? The first week is very warm and fuzzy, and we color, or the first couple of weeks, right? We color a lot. We use lots of markers and colored pencils, and you draw your dreams. And then we get deep into numbers and marketing, and we talk about the legal stuff and the accounting. The goal is not that you have a full-fledged business plan at the end, but our goal is giving you tools in a toolbox, so that as you're building your business, you have the things you need to build it correctly. We don't want to, it's not an accelerator program. So your goal isn't to come out the other side with an operating business, right? It is a good program for anybody who is stuck. So anybody who has a concept and just doesn't really know how to start, or anybody who is in startup phase. Maybe they're selling at a farmer's market, maybe they got a product and they're just kind of starting to test it out. Or if you are like a full-fledged business, anybody who's kind of transitioning to something else. So opening a new location, launching a new line, transitioning to a website, anybody who is in transition. If you're at point A and you'd like to be at point B, or you've just been spinning your wheels and you're not sure if you're going anywhere. We think a lot about how like hamsters on a wheel. I do love a metaphor, but hamsters like spinning on a wheel, and you're working really hard in your business, but you're not actually going anywhere. We want to make sure you kind of have a vision to actually act on. But yeah, we run it 3 times a year. And so it's a small cohort of like 12 to 14 people.
So I did go through the Costarters program in 2016, I think.
Yes.
2016.
You were in cohort 10. That's all I remember.
Cohort 10?
Mhm.
Wow. But so here's my plug for Co-Starters. I plug Co-Starters all of the time. But one thing that I love that is so great about the program is that, when I went through the program, Forge had not opened yet. It was just an idea.
And it was a very big secret.
It was a very big secret. We were looking for space. I had the business plan, I had the numbers, I had all of that, but we did not have a space, and it was just me. So that meant my poor husband heard me all the time. He was the only one I could talk to, or he was the only one that was kind enough to listen all the time. And so what I loved about Co-Starters, one of the things that was so great for me starting a business without a business partner, was like just being in a room full of 14 other people who either owned a business or starting a business, just thinking that, and to be able to get everybody's different perspectives, to have somebody different to talk to. And I loved that it was all different. Like we had, I don't think we had restaurant, but we had caterers, we had a soap maker, a yarn artist, marketing person, B&B, like so many different.
Yeah. All sorts of people.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else there was. The like holistic natural food, just all different kinds of business owners. So getting different perspectives. But this is where my true plug comes in, I guess. I don't know. Or getting me in. If you were listening to this and thinking that's great, but I don't have time or the money, because it does cost money. And so being not a business owner yet, with making no money, I can remember calling Jessica the night before the
Yeah, I mean, we started on a Monday. I want to say you called me on a Thursday or a Friday.
I think it was probably a Friday.
And I was like, oh God, this lady calls me and is like, I've applied, because I do this thing where people apply and then they don't follow through. So I send out this email and say, hello, we're starting on Monday. If you're still interested, you need to secure your spot. Call me if you have any questions. I have like 3 spots left. And then, so Kim calls me, and it's probably like a Friday morning. And she's like, hi, this is Kim. This is my business. I don't know if Costarters is right for me. Can you tell me? And I do the whole shtick about this is what we do. This is what we cover. And you're like, okay, I just don't know if I'm ready. I mean, I think I'm ready, but I don't know if I'm ready. And I don't know if I want to pay for it. And tell me and she talks for maybe 10 minutes. And then finally was like, I think I'm ready I am going to go through it. Okay. I'll submit a payment today.
And I don't know if you said anything in those 10 minutes.
No, I think I started with a little spiel, and then you talked yourself into it.
I talked myself into it because it is great. And it is now it's the number one thing I recommend to anybody who comes to us with an idea, or what should we do, or I've just started and I'm having trouble, or not even having trouble, just starting. Like, it is just such a great program. And I'm
entrepreneurship
such a huge fan.
Well, entrepreneurship is so lonely that I think even if you feel like you do have all of the answers, being in a room with like 12 to 14 other people or on a Zoom currently, but with 12 to 14 other people who are also traveling that same journey, I think is really encouraging. Every week we share highs and lows, and we talk about how the challenges that we hit, and it starts to it gets pretty real. And that's the only group that we talk to. Everything in that room stays confidential. And so it's the only group of people who truly understand everything that you're going through. And it's great. And I love watching the connections that are made through Costarters with other Costarters graduates. So when I come into Forge, I get so excited because there are so many Costarters graduates there who are all friends and know each other, but none of them were in the same cohort.
Yeah.
Except for you and Russell.
Yeah, I was about to say he was in my cohort, and he was one of the first. I can't remember what number he was, but he was definitely one of the first founding members at Forge.
Yeah. But when I walked on, I'm like, oh, hey, I feel so popular.
You're like a celebrity here.
Oh yeah. I've come in with my mom before, and she's like, oh my God, you know everybody. And I'm like, well, they've all come through our program.
You're just so
But
cool. And so,
I'm
yeah,
like,
you're the
ugh, I just
celebrity
want
of
to, yeah,
Forge.
I just want to be at Forge because it makes me feel popular.
That's right. Well, so I know when y'all took on the Co-Starters program, you might not have known the impact that it was going to have or how big of a deal it was going to be for the program. So how did y'all decide to actually jump full in with this?
Yeah.
Or what was it like to kind of shift? Or
We launched that first cohort in 2014 and we didn't know what was going to happen. We actually had to convince a lot of people to go through it. And we were like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And I don't think anybody that went through that first cohort would turn around now and be like, what a waste of time. So I think that they all enjoyed it. But we started to recognize that it was helpful
Mhm.
and that, but we were really seeing a shift in kind of who was coming through. So it is for everybody. What we find is that women particularly enjoy it. And I'd say like 70% of our graduates are actually female,
Oh, wow.
which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty big. But so in the first 3 years, Buddy and I had talked about, what do we do now? Like, are we still supporting our graduates? Like, do we just keep moving with this? So we decided to launch into another study because we love a study.
That's right.
And so we wanted to survey our first 3 years of graduates, which is the only reason that I know you're in cohort 10 is because we
Ah,
discussed which number where we should cut it off, and we decided we would include your cohort. So we surveyed the first 10 cohorts, and we wanted to know what sort of support do you still need after going through this? What's your confidence level? What do you still need access to? And so with the results from that, we discovered that people had the knowledge, but they still didn't have the like financial capabilities of moving forward. So we launched an advisor and a marketplace fund out of
mhm.
that to help our graduates. So that advisor fund helps them secure their LLC, get their business license, get their insurance kind of up and running. And the marketplace fund helps them kind of test their product. So whether it can cover marketplace fees, it can get their website up off the ground. And then we also launched a revolving loan fund that sits within Sabre Finance for our Co-Starters graduates. The other big thing that we were seeing is some of our graduates had great ideas, but may have poor credit or poor
Mm.
financial like backing previously. So we wanted to be that kind of small town banker that says, I vouch for these people. I know what they're going through and we want to help move them forward. We back this, like we are okaying this loan despite what their credit report may say. So we've had people who've gotten that, who have had previously gotten like poor payday loans with high interest payday loans. And so we've had they pulled a loan to basically cover that. Their like monthly payment, like a
Oh,
couple of them, their monthly payment is like $700.
oh
And
my
then
goodness.
after we paid it off, their monthly payment went down to like 120.
Oh,
Yeah. Which is huge for your business, right? Now you have
right.
like an additional $600 in your cash flow.
Every month.
Um, yeah. Or we had people who were just getting small loans of like maybe $7,000 to help push them through for Christmas or for the holiday season, and then would pay that back and have now gone back for larger loans.
Mhm.
So that was a huge thing for our organization, and being able to walk in and say, I won't literally hold your hand in the meeting, but if you want me to, I will, but I do walk over and over to Sabre Finance and sit in the meeting with you and help them communicate kind of everything. I help put all your stuff together, your financials, putting all your paperwork and things like that so that you can communicate what you need. The other big thing that we started to do was we were finding that people didn't have an actual space to create things or work. or they didn't have a space to actually sell outside of a farmer's market. So we launched Co-work, which you have been a huge part of, and partnering with a couple other co-working spaces like Make and Practice Works. And then we also had Co-Shop, which was then at Square One Goods. And so we hope that will come back. But that gave like actual shelf retail space to Costarters graduates to test their products, see how they sell, see if they should change their tagging, their pricing, see if they're able to actually communicate things. And it gave like a place for them to say, you can go here outside of Pepper Place, outside of my pop-up, and find my stuff anytime, which is huge.
Yeah. So, okay, listening to this, and then anyone who knows you knows that you are very passionate about helping small business owners. So is this something that you've always been passionate about, or did it just start growing as you worked with more and more business owners? Tell us about that.
It's something, it's weird. I feel like this job was kind of tailor-made for me. So, I worked for Starbucks for a long time, and I was passionate about the people that I worked with at Starbucks. A lot of them were artists, creatives, makers, and Starbucks did a great job at saying you should, like, they would kind of host a pop-up outside of Starbucks and they could sell their things, right? Or we would we were a big part of community advocacy and like being in the community and volunteering, working with your community and making sure that you're making a change, and supporting other smaller businesses within our bigger space. So even though they're a large company, they still supported smaller businesses and smaller organizations. When I went to the Humane Society, things shifted there, and we kind of had that same sort of mentality that we wanted to work with people who do things better than we did, right? Like, so we wanted to sell locally made things, locally made products, working with makers who make dog biscuits, like who do grooming, all of that kind of local support. But growing up, it was very similar. I mean, my mom has been self-employed since like 1984, and has always been like Kathy Druin Incorporated, even though her business has shifted 10 times. So I grew up with like a self-employed mom, understanding what that like entrepreneurship hustle looks like, and recognizing that things change, which means your product needs to change, your customer changes, so your solution has to change. And so I just kind of had that like internal mentality. I also sold my own little things as like an 8-year-old and would like draw pictures and sell them, or like write a book all about Jessica and try to sell it for $4.
I bet that's worth a lot of money now, though.
I'm
Way more than $4.
It was just like hard printed off of a copy, like, I mean, and then like I may have bound it, but yeah, it's beautiful. And you can ask Kathy if she still has a copy. So I always kind of understood that, but I understood the challenges, and what I've always loved is trying to figure out what people's dreams are and their goals are, and trying to help them move past those roadblocks. Because I don't think that there should be roadblocks, and whether they're kind of like self-identified roadblocks or literal roadblocks, I want to help remove those barriers.
So tell me, what is your favorite thing that about this role that you have working with? I mean, I know you have other roles to Create, but this role,
this hat,
working with this hat, yes, for these hours during the day. No, about working with small business owners. I
make a lot of people cry, but like good, happy tears when, in fact, I mean, it just happened like Thursday when we were doing Create Foundations. We get to that, like, what's your break even point? And we start talking about fixed costs. And I'm like, what kind of salary are you looking for? And people are like, I don't know, like $1,000 a month. And I'm like, that's it? That's all you want to make? You want to make $12,000 a year? That would be good for you.
Yeah.
You think you can live off of this? And so in a very tough love sort of way, I like to push people to like, you can be so much more than that, and you deserve so much more than bare minimum. And so when I think they start to see that in themselves, that's what gives me like the warm fuzzy feelings. And then I love being able, I mean, we now have like 300 graduates. I know a good chunk of them. There was a time when I was on maternity leave, and those I call the lost cohorts, but because I don't know some of those people. But I like making connections with other people in Co-Starters. And so when I am meeting with someone, I'm like, oh my God, you should talk to so-and-so because they have this retail space and I think they could sell your stuff. Or you're a musician, you should talk to so-and-so because they like, this is what they do. And so I love making connections. And I love seeing these like partnerships and bonds formed like across cohorts. And when I just like see people hanging out and I'm like, oh, you two know each other. And that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like seeing dreams become a reality. And then like that kind of internal confidence. I also love watching them scale up. So when people come into Co-Starters, they often just have an idea. And then a couple years later, I'll see them like move from one location to another, or they open up a second location, or they started with a food truck and now they've got 2 locations, or they've changed locations. Now they have huge amounts of staff or they're hiring other Co-Starters graduates. And so it makes me really happy to watch them, like their idea come to fruition and know that like they put in the work and their dreams have like become a reality, and that they've like worked really hard, but their dreams have become a reality.
Yeah. So I was just looking over the list of all the graduates, and it's been a long time since I've done it. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, now it's like a drop down for categories, where before it was just a list. But so many of the companies are really household names in Birmingham now. So instead of you being put on the spot to name some of them, why don't you, just to give people an idea of some of the companies that have gone through their program, and if you're listening,
I'm definitely going to leave people off.
Yeah. But what are the businesses that you have visited just in the past month?
Okay.
Or a couple of weeks, and we're all gracious here if you forget one. So
Daniel Drinkard with Seasick Records, we visit regularly, and his daughter, he used to work with Create Birmingham, and his daughter is Delta's best friend. And so we see them pretty regularly. I shop at Houseplant Collective too much. Not possible. You can't have enough plants, but you probably could. I ordered earrings for Delta's birthday from Trove a couple of days ago. We eat, now that Eugene's Hot Chicken has a vegan hot chicken sandwich, we can eat there. We go to the Essential pretty regularly. I haven't had tea from Ceremony Tea House in a while, but I did run into April because she now works at Shoe Shop. But Shoe Shop isn't a graduate, but that's okay. I went into Left Hand Soap Company, but now they're in Pepper Place, and so I went in there the other day. I went to Ignite Cycle this morning, and then went to Blue Root a couple of days ago. And so, it's hard. I mean, they kind of exist. I think Elizabeth Cameron's like Ecamm & Co. We light her candles all the time. And then now we have another candle company called Home Candle. And we light their candles all the time. And I know you go to Thank You Books like I do go to Thank You Books all the time. And I'm one of those people, you get like store credit, like the points, right? So when you spend money, you earn. And they're always like, do you want to use them? And I'm like, no, thank you. No. And I don't know why. I just like to accumulate my points.
So one day
I know that I'm going to like forget my wallet, and they'll be like, that's okay. You have money. You have 2 million points here. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll die and they'll pass on to Delta. So we do, I go there. And then we went to Domestique. We buy Domestique coffee from the pharmacy right next door. Yeah, we have lots of graduates, and they exist within my daily life.
That's right. Well, so, okay, shifting just a little bit. I would like to hear from you, who deal with so many business owners. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see small business owners face in our city? And kind of two pronged. So one is like just universal before COVID, like problems. And then maybe now, and then like post COVID, because there's whole new complications there.
So one of them is a lot the same. Confidence level is pretty big. I think that's one of the reasons that we have so many women go through Co-Starters is it is really easy to start a business as a white man. Like people can have the dumbest idea and walk into a bank and the bank will fund it. Women have to understand their business model on a completely different level and be able to communicate it. And to be a Black woman, you have to understand your business model even more, right? So confidence level is big. Access to funding is also really big. So, and those two things were, I mean, once COVID hit, I think those became even larger problems.
Yeah.
And so you saw so many women, mothers working from home. I actually just talked to Autumn Sanders about this. So you saw so many women working from home who were entrepreneurs, but having to work from home because they were having to also take care of their children. And so their businesses were suffering because you were focused on two things, and you cannot be 100% on all the things, right? You can't put, and because people are good moms, they put their children first, which means they feel guilty when their business doesn't succeed. So I think people are having to redefine their level of what their success means, and which is scary because people are feeling like failures because their business isn't thriving. And so it's terrifying to have to change what success means. And that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing is that businesses are shifting, and then they're having to say they feel like they're closing when they had to shift on to online only. But they're not failing. They're doing well because they're doing what they had to do to make it work. So I think that's the biggest piece that is happening in the midst of COVID is that kind of internal mental exhaustion. We actually, on Coffee with Jessica, we talked a little bit about this. A lot of us as parents are doing so much of the mental workload of, oh gosh, what if schools get shut down? And in the back of our head, we have this constant like evacuation plan of the moment I get the call, these are all the things I have to do. And I have to immediately reschedule all these meetings. And this is my like grab bag, right? Like this is my go bag for when I get that phone call. And I don't think we understand, I don't think we really know that we're doing all of that mental prep work. So all of the other things that we do in the day are even more exhausting. Like just trying to figure out what you're going to have for lunch is exhausting because you're just taking up all this mental capacity. And so I think we kind of call it the COVID coaster. We just all felt like we got off the COVID coaster for a while, and now we're all back on it, and it's exhausting. In outside of all of that, I think small business owners, kind of a pre-COVID all the time sort of thing. Small business owners have a great idea and they launch into this. I have this thing, I'm going to start making it and selling it. And they haven't truly thought through their business. So they know that they have this product and they know that people are buying it, but they haven't really thought through who is their customer, or how much does it cost me to make it? How much money do I want to make? What are all the other things that I need to pay for? So they know I make these bags and sell them. I'm using scrap fabric, so it doesn't really cost me anything, but they haven't really thought through their time at all. Like what could they be doing if they weren't making them? And And so they haven't thought through those things. So they think I make this thing and I sell it. I'm doing really well. I launched like a website. I put my things on Etsy. I sell them on like Instagram. And now they feel like they're at, on a scale of 1 to 10, they feel like they're at a 7 or an 8. But then when we start to look at their business and ask them all these other questions, they realize they're really only at a 2. And then it becomes disheartening.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that all comes from that confidence level of it's okay that you're at a 2. Now we know how to quickly get to a 7.
Right.
Now we know what these missing pieces are and how to fill it in. But it's kind of that, like, if you're making a cake and you just throw all the ingredients in, but you don't measure it out, it's not a good cake, but it looks like a cake.
Right. You still want to eat.
But like once you start to dissect it, you're like, this has too much salt and I did not put enough sugar in it. And so you want to make sure that you have all of the right aspects to your business to build that like cake that's delicious, and sustainable. Right. And so I think that's the conversations that we have with people, is making sure that you understand the aspects of your business so that you can build and scale upon it, as opposed to building your house on sand, or just building something and it completely falling apart.
So what are the top 2 things that people tend to not think about, like that they just move forward and don't think about?
I think they don't understand, they haven't thought about paying themselves. So if they, and I will yell at people all the time, right? And there's a couple different levels of that. If it's a side hustle, they haven't truly decided how much they want to make from the side hustle. So they haven't really given themselves, put a number in as like a salary. Not that you have to like pay yourself $4,000 every month automatically, but putting in those aspirational numbers allows you to figure out, oh, I have to sell X number of bags and then I can make this much money.
Right.
Or I have to sell this number of bags and I can make this much money and put that in my pocket, even if it's a side hustle. The other thing that they think about is, oh, I do all this on my own. I don't have to pay somebody for time. So then, which is hard, because then we'll still use the bag analogy, but I make these bags and I'm getting tons of orders. I have never put a payroll or an hourly wage in for making the bags. So the moment that I need to hire somebody to make more bags, I haven't thought that through. And now I'm not making any money on bags, because all of my gross profit is having to go to pay somebody else. So what we encourage people to do is, let's figure out aspirationally, what does it cost to produce your product, even to pay yourself that hourly wage, so that you can, at some point, if you want to scale up, we already know what that looks like, and you're already priced in a place that allows you to scale up. You can continue to roll the money back in the business as long as you want, but we want to put those numbers in so that you know what you have to do, and pay yourself like an actual living wage, as opposed to it would be great if I made $1,000.
Yeah.
And so many people, I hope, I'm going to send this to people, because they will all be like, oh great, Jessica just talked about me on that thing. But there's like literally,
but it's not just one person, it's everybody.
No, it's like 35 people. And so I just want them to know that if they listen to this, that yes, I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to like 34 other people.
That's right.
Because they all do it. I guess it would be nice if, or I could probably get by on X amount of money.
Well, it's the easiest way to be frugal with your money in your business and create a product that or a solution, whatever, that you think people will pay for. So you try to price it so that people will pay for it. And you're like, oh, look, and I can make money. So, and the business is still healthy, but
that's what happens is people think that if they set all those numbers low, then they're like, oh, I only have to sell 4 bags a month. And I'm like, yeah, but you're making $200. That's it.
Yeah.
And don't you want to make more? And so wouldn't it be great if you put these they're not set in stone. So I always tell people, There's, in the same way you have a household budget, like this is how much money we make, this is how much it costs to keep the lights on at home. But, and so I need to make this amount of money. But if I made a much larger, if I made $3,000 a month, I could put money into savings. We could go on a vacation. We could do this, we could do that. So let's play with a couple different scenarios. You know how much money you have to make to keep the lights on at home.
Right.
But then how much money would you like to have? Like, don't you want to go out to dinner and not cry because your bank account's close to zero all the time?
Right. Yeah. And
Like,
you're
it's
not
okay
afraid.
to dream.
Yeah. And I love that you are the perfect person for this, because you're not afraid to just,
I will
you know,
yell at people.
in love.
Yes. I'll say it with a smile.
That's right. I know. Okay. Shifting gears again. So the title of this podcast is Building Birmingham Together. So what role do you see that Create plays in building Birmingham, and where do you see our areas of growth for small businesses, even nonprofits, to really buy into this idea?
Yeah. So encouraging people to work together. So for a long time, we've been siloed. Working on our own, trying to stay in our own lane. But it is a highway. And I think one of the things, especially in like the Birmingham, like small business ecosystem, a lot of organizations were kind of like quietly working on their own, right? Just like head down, doing their own thing. Now there's so many collaborations working together. When I get a call and somebody is looking for funding, I'm like, oh, you should talk to this person, or they're ready for acceleration. I'm like, oh, you should talk to this person. And so in the same way, when people go over there and they're not quite ready, they come back, like they divert them over here. And so we have gotten a lot better at working together, understanding what everybody in like that ecosystem is doing and who is best situated to support each other, and creating those partnerships amongst other organizations. I would also say, from small business support to small businesses supporting small businesses, being open and honest about your struggle is helpful for other entrepreneurs. I think social media makes it look like people tried really hard for like a month, and then they did it.
Yeah.
And they opened a restaurant. And so being open and candid about that kind of struggle with other people opening a restaurant is really, or any sort of business, is really helpful. We have so many people who are looking to open a restaurant, and we're just trying to find access, like information about like cash flow. Like, what does your cash flow look like? What does any sort of P&L look like? How should I start ordering? Like being able to answer those questions. So having other co-starters graduates for us to say, like, you should talk to so-and-so, they can help you, was really helpful. So being willing to help other small businesses, I think that kind of like rising tides float all boats mentality is helpful. You don't have to be the only person doing your thing. Having more businesses succeed will help you in the long run. So just being willing and able to help people is the best sort of mentality.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The last question that I like to ask people is, what are like one or two lessons that you've learned about running and growing an organization that you apply daily? I feel like you kind of just gave us one about.
I think that's it, is like being willing to support and help people. I also think that setting boundaries for yourself is okay. So I allow people to schedule one-on-one meetings with me, but within 72 hours in advance. So that ideally you cannot schedule a meeting on Monday with me for Friday. You have to schedule a meeting with me for next week. And I think that's okay. I like to look at my calendar on Monday and know what the rest of my week looks like, or look at it on a Sunday and be able to understand what it looks like. I'm also a big advocate for the time management matrix, and everybody knows this, but breaking your tasks down into 30, 45-minute tasks is the best thing that you can do for yourself. We avoid things when they're like 2-hour chunks. Because nobody has 2 hours in their day. So if you can break it down into 30 and 45 minutes, you'll get so much more done. But yeah, helping people and also advocating for yourself and self-care is perfect. You can take care of other people, but you also have to take care of yourself.
Right. Okay. Now, we did talk ahead of time, so I have prepped you on most of the questions, but I do usually ask a few rapid fire questions at the end. So just like top one or two. So, and sometimes people don't have answers. Especially to my first one. So if you are a podcast listener, what are your top one or two podcasts that you listen to related to business? And if you don't listen to them, that's okay.
Well, I don't listen to a ton of business podcasts,
or it doesn't yeah.
Okay. I do love the Conan O'Brien podcast.
Okay. I've never listened to that one.
Oh my God, he's so funny. And so I enjoy it. I just want to laugh for a little while. So I like his podcast, and I really like the Smartless podcast with Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean Hayes, because it's so like conversational, and they have a surprise guest and aren't prepared with questions at all. And so it's just like totally funny. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What is that one? The
Smartless.
Smartless. Okay.
Less. Yeah.
Got it.
Not smart.
Not smart. Okay. There you go.
Not smart. Yeah, it's super funny. So I enjoy those. They're like digestible, an hour long. And but that's good. Probably about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I have my podcast that I listen to like at the end of the week or at the end of the day that just make me laugh. So I can add those.
Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about top 2 resource books that you like?
I enjoy, there's a book called Profit First.
Oh, I love Profit First.
It's so good because the whole concept is that you should pay yourself first, and then you'll have to figure it out.
Yep.
So instead of paying all the other things and then paying yourself what's left.
Right.
I think it's a great book for any entrepreneur.
Okay. I do too. So if y'all are listening, this one in my mind, I was like, I can't ask her this because it's not fair, but I will ask you, and you can plead the 5th if you want. The 3rd one is your favorite Birmingham restaurant.
That is super hard. But anybody would tell you that I eat at the Essential regular, like multiple times a week. Yeah. I go to a friend's house almost every Friday, and I will either order food to pick up from the Essential, or I will order food to pick up from Shoe Shop.
Okay. All right.
But
I go to the Essential for
I'm
lunch.
Never disappointed. Oh, it's so good.
Well, my go-to at the Essential for lunch is the like the kale,
the 5-grain bowl.
Yes. I love it.
The 5-grain salad. It's so good.
It's so good. So good.
That whipped feta.
It's so good. Yeah. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for being here on Building Birmingham Together today. And if y'all are listening to this and think that CoStarters would be beneficial to you, it would be, my little hint, but you still have time to apply. So the next cohort starts on September 13th.
I'm glad you had the date.
Yes, I looked it up. They meet virtually every Monday evening from 6 to 9. So actually it can go wider than Birmingham. So you don't even have to come, which is, a little added bonus of COVID.
I think it's great.
And virtual. Yeah. But you can apply through the Create Birmingham website, which is createbirmingham.org, and you go to programs and you'll see it there.
You can also just go to costartersbham.org.
Oh,
which is way easier to remember than,
there you go.
It just takes you to our website, but it's easier to remember.
Costartersbham.org. So definitely look at that, apply. If you need some coaxing, you can always call Jessica and she can convince you even more why you should do it. But thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do for our city, for small business owners, continued support, and cheering on of us all. So thanks, Jessica.
Well, thanks for being a part of it too, Kim.
Yeah.